I think we'll get started here, and I assume as people jump right in here. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to PCG's technology series. We try to do these quarterly, and it's always good to get feedback from our clients and prospects of topics you like to speak about. I was recently down, all last year was nothing about security, and this year every event I go to is nothing about artificial intelligence. So I think some of our upcoming workshops will be about that, on how we can embrace AI, how to use it in best case scenarios to save on a particular time or process or procedures. And as we've been learning here at PCG, there's so many things we can use it to optimize our time and schedule. So again, welcome everybody. This is a very important topic for us and for a lot of our clients. In today's topic, it's about business continuity and about disaster recovery as a service. I know we hate the letter acronyms, but the word DRaaS is commonly used, and we're going to talk about that and how it's used. And a key another part is the Microsoft 365 coverage. So my name's Dave Hodgson. I am the CEO and founder of PCG, but the more important person is the smarter person on the call today is Mr. Sean Crawley. He's our Cronus DRaaS specialist, so I'll be doing the initial slides to get going, and then Sean will bring his expertise to the call. We please, if anyone has questions during the meeting, just pop it out. We feel it's more engaging versus us just going through slides. Good morning, Sean. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Dave, and looking forward to speaking with everyone today. So thanks for having me.
You got it. Agenda quickly, we'll talk about the planning trends and how to mitigate risk. We're going to talk about RTO, your recovery time and point objectives. We're going to introduce you to DRaaS. It's been around for around 4 or 5 years, but it's picking up momentum. And I always explain DRaaS to my prospects and clients that in your home, and if you lose power, a lot of people have a generator that kicks in. It's nice to know that it's going to be operating. You don't have to worry about, I'll run my whole house. And we want to really kind of emphasize how DRaaS will work in your environment. If you have a lot of servers in place and you don't want that X amount of downtime, your servers can run up in this DRaaS environment, and we'll be going over that with you. A big part of the DRaaS is the cyber protection. And the key right there is how fast we can get up and running. And usually it's between 15 and 30 minutes that you'll be fully operational in the cloud. The key part to all of this from our end is testing. We need to make sure your data is safe, it's officially running. So when the time comes, it's like if your car, you have a flat tire, that the donut in your car, the tire is there, it has air in it, that we do have to test this for you. So business continuity DR planning, I think everyone should be answering those questions internally. Does your company currently have a business continuity plan? And that's just not about your data. It's about your people. It's about your building being there. It's about truly having a plan should something happen. What is your recovery time objective and point objective? That could be 1 hour for one business. That could be 2 days for another business. So you really need to think about how long can I be without my data. I was at one of our clients the other day, and he says, we can't be down for more than 20 minutes. We're losing thousands of dollars. That's a prime reason to have DRaaS in place. Does your firewall support 2 internet connections? So in the world of business continuity, if your firewall cannot support 2 internet circuits, it's important, as we rely on the cloud, you do need a firewall that can support both circuits. It's also important to have a secondary internet circuit for a business. We might rely on a fiber or a Comcast or First Light or Consolidated. Just like insurance, you should be thinking about a secondary ISP. I'd probably say 10% of our clients have a generator in place and it's planned testing. So again, if your equipment's on premise, one of the things you can lose the most is power. So you want to make sure that generator is in place. And how often do you review this plan? I'd recommend if you do it once a year, just update your plan, keep it in place, and by all means, you need to test it. And the bottom one I'm going to continue to harp on is you have to have cyber insurance in place. So something should happen, that you have a backup or a safety net to help pay for that. High level, yes.
Dave, can we did just get a question. One of the big ones probably is talking about cost. Are you going to maybe hit on that, or?
Yeah, it's free. It's free for the first 5 years, right, Sean?
Everything's free.
I will hit on that, Wendy, shortly. It really depends on the number of servers you need to spin up, but we're seeing the average cost between 100 and 500 per month. It depends on how many servers, how many workloads, how many data, and we have a calculator to help each client. It seems the norm seems to be around 300. So that's pretty short money, and we'll go over the return on investment on that, Wendy, but it's a great question. I do have some slides on that.
Great.
So you can kind of see, anything else on that, Sean?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, it all depends on the workloads that you're doing, and obviously from my experience, it's more of when it does happen, it pays for itself rather quickly, Dave. It's an insurance policy, but the return on investment is amplified. Where you were just saying the numbers before of the cost of downtime of thousands of dollars per day, and kind
Yes.
of do the math on that, it pays for itself.
So most people have seen the NIST framework. We use this a lot for cybersecurity, but I kind of want to hit on a few things of where we're thinking of DRaaS is we're identifying the data, the downtime, can it be 1, 2, 3? We really need as your organization, what can we deal with for downtime? Can it be a day? Can it be 2 days? Or is it within hours? So we've identified the time frame. Now from there, how quickly do we respond and need to recover? So it's really about identifying, responding, and recovering is the big areas to go with DRaaS. The benefits is it's really about a server loss, could be power, could be a disruption in the closet, the sprinkler head went, natural vents. We also what happens out in the fires out in the LA area. We don't see things like that as much, but you can get a snow or ice storm that can knock you down for a day or two. Physical damage could happen. So you really need to, thinking about the things that can go wrong. It is buying insurance. We hope it will never go wrong, but it sure feels good if something goes wrong, it's there. And I think most people have insurance on their car, on their house. You have plans to will, you have plans in your financial. So without your data, there's a good chance you and your business can not only not operate, affect your clients, and also you can't pay your employees. So it adds up pretty quickly. You don't have to spin up everything up in the cloud. So it's really key to think about what do we really need to have operational. So we'll talk about what servers and applications need to be up there. And the key thing is getting everything operational in 1 hour. And we help you with who needs access to those applications. It's really about providing, the continuity. This will be spun up in the cloud. It's really about testing. Once we know everything you want, we have the ability to get all those in place. You're seeing it operate, so when it actually does fail, you're in a good spot. We kind of went over when your business needs DRaaS, and disaster recovery as a service. The Seabrook station leak, a gas explosion, whatever that might be. I think, again, here in New England, it's probably going to be power. Your server could have a major problem or a meltdown, and you're not going to get the server part for a few days. You could have, I think there's internet issues, but usually most internet issues come up pretty quickly. So that's usually not the time that you need it right there. A big one that we're seeing growing is, the disgruntled employees. They're tampering with your data, so we have the ability to go back in time before that happened. And you also have the bad actors playing on that, and Sean will be going over that in a little bit later. So really, it's equipment failure and ransomware are the two big things we're seeing, and plain bad luck. The generator seizes. I was up at a client the other day, and the guy next door, his generator didn't kick in, and I guess the pipes froze, and none of the water sprinkle head went, so it didn't go for it. So the fire got out of control, and he lost everything in his IT closet and business. It was tough. I've seen people where they have their water cooler or heater near the equipment that if that fails, it goes there. So again, it can happen in many different ways. Some statistics that came about disruptions in Q2 24, about 30% as compared to what was in 23. About 90% of mid-size report that a single hour of downtime now exceeds $300,000 in costs. So my lesson there or learned from you is take a look at your business. What does it really cost each hour of downtime? Take your employees not working, what you're paying for them, your loss to revenue, and just do the math, and it's pretty quickly you can see your ROI in that. About 45% are showing that cyber incidents is the most feared cause, and I think we all worry about that every day. And that's the other number is pretty staggering. That 77% of companies truly don't have a plan. I'm going to preach to everyone, similar to the days we did in elementary school when the alarm went off. We all knew what to do. Lined up, out the door, follow the teacher. You just kind of get used to it. So please work on at least having an incident plan should a main person on your leadership team something happen. If something bad happens, just have a plan and it will take you a long way. We kind of hit all these. There's threats everywhere, disasters. We saw what happened with the pandemics. I think we're past that and we're doing pretty well. I think the biggest thing we all learned from the pandemic is that when we went to a remote workforce, that opened up a new world of problems from security and how to address things. But a good news is we've allowed our employees to work anywhere, anytime. But we want to make sure there's services in place from working from home. Hardware failure, we hit that. Accidental data deletion, that's another one that a major mistake happened. You didn't mean to happen, so we go back in time. And again, on the human side, cyber attacks. Wendy did ask the question earlier, and I just gave an example right here, what it would cost a month. Again, we have a calculator, and anyone that's interested on this call, at the end, please let us know, and we'll pretty much look at what you have for resources, how many servers you want to spin up. We put it into the calculator, how much storage you need, how many virtual machines you have, and then we come up with a ballpark. So this particular scenario shows us about $333 a month to run this particular scenario. There's two sides to having the DRaaS up in the cloud. The insurance side, it's there. The second part of it, if you actually need to do it, it's kind of like you're running the gas. It's actually going to cost a little bit of money to consume that. So on an average day, you're going to spend about $32 to run it. So let's say you're down 4 or 5 days, you got about $120, $130 to run it. Then your server's back in place. So there's the one-time fee monthly that you have the service should you need it. But if you actually need to use it, you're paying that one-time fee daily. Anything else on that one, Sean?
No, yeah, it's it's there, it's available, but once you actually, and it's only in a production failover. So when you are running that way, obviously you can perform tests for all your clients. There's no fees there running it in test mode. It's only when you're doing a production failover and using those resources. The Acronis technology gives you monthly compute points to allow for those tests.
Thanks, Sean. So again, every scenario is...
Can I jump in with another question, Dave?
Yes.
Someone's asking, I don't know if I waited too long. We're doing backup currently in-house on a server. Is that okay? And then a follow-up is, what is the difference between restoring my current backup versus DRaaS?
So the first question, they're doing a backup to a server internally. You always want to back up from your server to an appliance. I hope from there, Wendy, it's going out to the cloud. You never want it just in the building. So with the Acronis solution, with all of our clients, you do have the servers doing their backup to a local appliance, and from there it's going to the cloud. So okay. The first part is, yes, it's okay to back up to your local server, but make sure there's an image off-site should both those devices not be there. And the second question, Wendy, was?
Really, what's the difference between just restoring from my current backup versus taking on DRaaS?
Well, if my server's not there, you can't recover. If the room is not there by disaster, you can't recover. If there's anything in that room or that server is not going to be in production for 1, 2, 3 days, that's the whole purpose of DRaaS, is that now you're working that whole environment up in the cloud. Anything else on that one, John?
Yeah, and the piggyback off of that is even once you get something in place to recover to, you're pulling that information down from the cloud. That takes time depending on how much information that you're doing. It, obviously it can take hours to days to go ahead and perform that. DRaaS, I'll get into, they have infrastructure in place to actually failover mount to the machine where you can actually access the system in 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of the workload. So it's all about time. Is the short answer there.
And I think that kind of goes back to, as you do your internal of what it costs you per hour to be down. And as Sean just said, it's all about time. And we'll hit it on a slide recently. There really isn't much of a difference running it internally to your servers and up in the cloud. We've got that nailed down pretty good for you. So simple ROI, one of my last slides before I hand it over to Sean right here. This is just a simple example. This deck is available. There is a one-time fee to set it up. You can see the approximate storage, the approximate testing, your total for the year. So the outage cost to a $5 million company, as you can see, pretty short money when you think about it. That's kind of a 3 times ROI in that for you. Again, I'm emphasizing cyber insurance. Please look at your current policy. Make sure it's not an umbrella policy. Make sure you're checking off the boxes that you're getting the things in place. Because should something ever happen on this data, or if your data is corrupted, it's really nice to have that policy in place. So take a look at it, make sure what's there. It is there. Make sure you have the right provider. There's insurance costs are going up 10, 15, 20% every year. I remember when we've got I think our first policy in 2018. It seemed fair. This year, it doesn't seem fair, but that's kind of where the industry is going there. So I'm going to pass the baton to the smarter one on the call here and about the Acronis side. So welcome, Sean, and we'll get started on how.
Thanks again for having me. And I wouldn't say smarter. I just been doing this backup and DR stuff for a long time. So
yes, we appreciate this here.
No, thanks for having me, everyone. So I'll be going through the Acronis technology. I do work with, for Pax8, I have experience with a lot of different backup providers and DR providers. Honestly, Acronis is one of my favorites. Definitely very popular with the SMBs and even scales to the enterprise businesses. What I like about it, and I'll get into the presentation, is the flexibility of the solution when I get more into the technology itself. Number one, I think it's always more important versus the technology that you use. It's who you're partnering with and understanding the points that Dave talked about is understanding what systems are in place, how you're connecting to those systems, how the technology is actually failing over. But the hard part is just understanding what is your RPO, RTO, and designing the tools that you're using to give you that backup and DR type of solution. From a company standpoint, Acronis has been around for a long time. They've been around since 2003, over 20 years experience. They came out with image-based technology, bare metal recovery. They've actually amplified and using that baseline technology to give the services that we're presenting to you today. They're a global company, 150 different countries. All your data is protected in the United States. Compliance is very important. They meet all the different regulations. Even when you're doing an audit for your cyber insurance policies, you can get SOC 2s from them, everything of that sort. Over 500,000 clients are using this technology today. Why I really like the Acronis technology is the flexibility. They provide, backup, DR, and it's not all or nothing. It's one solution to back up all your different systems, where I'm always a proponent, you need to back up everything. But now you have the versatility to go ahead and select certain systems, certain data that you absolutely need to run your business from a business continuity standpoint. Also, it's going to grow with you. It's scalable technology, where I know your environments have changed 5 to 10 years ago. And 5, 10 years from now, maybe your systems are up in the cloud. Maybe you want a hybrid cloud environment. This type of technology can grow with you and scale with you to support those different workloads. So from my standpoint, I'm going to cover DR in a couple slides, but I think this is like the biggest gap when I'm actually talking to end clients and my partners is I'm a proponent of you need to back up everything. M365 or Google backup, I think majority on this call is probably M365, but there's a misconception out there that your data is protected because it's in Microsoft, it's in Google. Honestly, it is for a while, but it's not there from a long-term retention policy. Both of these, big players, they're not guaranteeing it's the customer's reliability to protect their information with third-party backup software. They're only keeping it for 30 days. So from a legal perspective, production perspective, anything of that sort, you think of restoring just an email, information that you're moving to the cloud in OneDrive or SharePoint, it's not retained. So when you need to go back, it's not there. That's why you use these different tools, whether, through, Acronis technology or other technologies. It's so important to go ahead and start protecting that data as well. It's, you think about, human error, everyone's getting different emails, everything like that. You doing it on the phone, information can be lost rather quickly. Also, it's very lightweight. You're not even going to know the solutions in place. Dave and his team, PCG, can set this up for you guys in minutes, and there's no overhead. It's going, offsite from, Microsoft into a secure data center in Acronis. Everything's automated. And then from a flexibility standpoint, just the time that it takes to restore information, there's search, there's indexing, where you can get granular on, an individual email based on different criteria, or restoring SharePoint information. And as I said, everything is secure end to end, especially with everything that Acronis does. Like, it's encrypted in flight, and it's in rest, and it's in a secure data center, meeting different compliances that way.
John, a couple of scenarios we see from our clients is think about a rogue employee or sales rep that's trying to take the data and then delete emails. We get requests for that. We get requests for an audit or a legal to go back to certain emails. So it's really nice to know that you have that data to go backwards. And,
right.
It's short money. So I think it's about $35, $40 per year per user to back up that mailbox. You don't have to back up everyone's mailbox. I know Sean's a proponent of everything, but again, usually think about it is pretty short money.
And and you talk about, and I don't like mentioning company names, but like rogue employees, you see it a lot where actually somebody that I worked with in the past left back doors and had access to everyone's email and used it for competitive information, Dave. It's just, you get surprised in people that
Right.
that actually perform these types of things, but it's being
Common.
in this industry for like 20 years, you see a lot. Also, honestly, like protecting M365, it's going to be the best bang for your buck as far as the cost and what it does for you. This model is actually licensed by Active Mailbox. So shared mailboxes are free. It's going to go ahead and back up everything in your environment. So all your emails, all your OneDrive information, SharePoint, it can take it at the root, or you can back up different sites. All the Teams information, even, chats that are going on. It can go ahead and back up the full gamut of Microsoft 365, but give you the granularity that you need to, hey, I need to restore a mailbox. I need to go ahead and download information to PST. I need to get one email back. Just productivity. You lose something in a matter of minutes, you can go ahead and get that information back, versus lost productivity that can take you, hours or days, or maybe that information is actually lost in between. The Acronis technology can actually back up, once a day. It can actually scale up now. I don't know if you know, Dave, up to 6 times a day. It can back up all this information. So you think of me, I'm on my phone deleting different things I don't know until later on in the day. That can be missed, right?
Right.
So obviously it gives you better RPOs, than what you have that way.
We've seen a huge adoption of SharePoint and Teams over the last year, Sean. So we're really seeing an uptick of people using that. And
that's the question I get. It's like, people are surprised. It's unlimited storage,
right.
and it's only by mailbox. So like, you have mailboxes that are 50 or 100 gigs. Now you got SharePoint sites that are in the terabytes. All that's included. That's where I say that it's the biggest bang for its buck,
It is.
because you could just store unbelievable amounts of information for a low cost. I always compare it to drinking coffee while you're presenting, but it will cost the companies less than a Starbucks cup of coffee per month to protect them. I mean, it's it's a good, nice return on investment. From a DR standpoint, obviously, I think the focal point of this presentation is from Acronis DR. It's it's not all or nothing. As Dave said, it's very flexible software. I see the Acronis software backing up clients. Some of them need DR, and then some of those clients only need 2 to 3 systems out of their 20 server environment in DR. It is compatible with all that. You select and choose what you want, and it's pretty painless to go ahead and deploy and turn servers into DR servers. I'll get more into, and what Dave alluded to is definitely the planning configuration. That's what takes time. But using these tools, actually onboarding of certain systems, you can do it rather quickly. I think you'll spend more time with your clients configuring the network side, Dave, and how they're connecting to it versus actually initiating a failover. But it supports many different workloads. So from a Acronis standpoint, they're built on physical servers doing image-based technology. They're very granular with Hyper-V, ESX, capturing Linux systems. You can basically, any system in your environment today, you can go ahead and deploy from a DR perspective. And it's suitable, from all size companies. I see, this being used to a single person like law firm to, companies that have thousands of employees. So there was a good question before, like backup in DR. What's the difference from a recovery point perspective? But what I want to tackle here is the architecture and the infrastructure has to be different for backup in DR. So, you think of common uses from backup, you're deleting information, granular restores, getting that information back. Backup keeps retention and history. That is very important for compliances. But, from a DR perspective, you need infrastructure built out in the cloud or a secondary location to actually perform that and have access to those systems where it's minutes to hours. Your target devices for backup is, like I said, I like to back up everything. It is important, and the return on investment from not doing it, is kind of a no-brainer to me. But obviously, DR isn't meant for everything. You're not going to have every endpoint. You're not going to have every server. Maybe you have old archive information that you don't touch. You don't need that in DR, but your critical like ERP systems or accounting software, all that is necessary to your business. That's what you can go ahead and define from a DR standpoint. And then, the storage and the compute. So everyone has, like we're talking about local copies, then getting off site. If you have to recover, you're pulling that information down to get that back, which it could take days to weeks, depending on your environment and what happens in your environment. Maybe it's a server, or what if something did happen to your location, or what if it's a ransomware event. In Acronis, they're building separate storage. So they have their cold tier, which you pull down, that's your backup storage, to your warm or hot storage, where it's better performing, faster disk, and they have compute built on top of it. So they have virtualized environment running on ESX, where they can take any system, whether it's coming from Hyper-V or a physical server, and fail over that system in their cloud. But the key. Oh, go ahead.
Sean, sorry. Thinking about, it looks like application recovery time. I think this question relates maybe, are these services available for just key user workstations running specific applications, or for all
Yeah, so
workstations?
great question, Wendy. And thank you from the audience, whoever asked that. But from Acronis's side, yeah, workstation, any Windows workstation can be failed over in their cloud as well. So that's, we talk about physical servers and virtual servers, but actually workstations running Windows can be failed over as well.
As Sean, one more point to add, that I feel some of your key users that have many applications, there are high price tag, a lawyer, accountant, some form of that them being down for hours. But if that custom setup can be up and running in no time while the other thing's being repaired, that's a game changer. So yeah. I think to that question, Wendy, yes, any key workstation can be set up to be in that same scenario?
So the flexibility of the solution. So, as I said, it's comprehensive, it's flexible. You're already, backing up information with Acronis. It's a couple clicks of a button from, the technicians to go ahead and actually deploy Acronis DR. So it's not very complicated. Where it gets more complicated and where you need the expertise of PCG is the testing, networking side, everything of that sort. But they give you all the different tools to allow that. But the deploying this solution from just, hey, having backup one day to having, a system in the cloud where you kind of go through, you define it as DR, you define your recovery server specs that Dave showed you from the tool of giving it, the compute and RAM. Pretty simple to go ahead and do. The key thing is, and it does work, I see it all the time with our clients, whether it's from testing, clients running this, we had a lot of obviously outages with the fire, the weather in Florida, and then from a ransomware perspective. But most systems, unless they're crazy big, we can always define that. But I see systems, terabytes in size, having access within 15 to 30 minutes. So very quick technology. It all depends on the workload, everything of that sort. But getting that system and having access to it, is, a 15-minute, RPO or RTO. Also from a recovery point objective, you can tell the technology, hey, I want a better RPO as well. So, Acronis can go ahead and back up once a day, but for your more critical systems, let's go ahead and back that up more frequently. Let's do it every hour. Every minute lost or potential gap, they can allow for, better RPOs as well. The failover process, it's a matter of honestly, like you're going to have a team monitoring your systems, understanding, getting alerts, anything like that. You guys are going to know if weather's coming, if you get hit by ransomware, but it's honestly a click of a button, and I'll get into it a little bit more. It's a complicated process where you're defining all your servers, your network, your connectivity, what systems need to be restored in a proper sequence. But the Acronis tool allows you to create runbooks and orchestration to actually do a single click, and it performs all those operations. So everything in your environment is back and operational, and you have access to it. We're talking about testing. Absolutely, you need to perform. I recommend once a quarter, a full like production type of test. Hey, we're turning things off. And we're doing a full failover. You have access, your users, you're making sure those systems are running properly in the cloud. But also just from a sanity perspective, Acronis has tools to understand, hey, are all my systems operational? Can they boot in the cloud? So they have, you can run their DR test phase where it's not impacting production and they're spun up in the cloud. Or you can even do screenshot verification now, Dave, with the tool and say, hey, this system is operational in the cloud. Have a screenshot of the login, everything of that sort to make sure that system is there just from peace of mind that way. But always do the full on test. Also from a granularity standpoint, I've been doing backup for a while, so you always want to get to your last one. And I'll talk about ransomware and how it's changing the game, but you do also need granularity with the DR. If you're hit by ransomware, a lot of times you don't know how long it's there. So it may not be your last recovery point. You may have to go back further to get that information back from a granularity perspective before that was hit and impacting your different systems. So how it all works, we're, from a team perspective, PCG will go ahead and first, let's define what servers. So it's flexible, as I said. You're going to understand, what are the critical systems. It supports everything from, your physical, your virtual, if you're on hypervisors, your databases. Are you running SQL? Are you running Oracle? Active Directory? It supports everything from there. Then how are you going to connect? So they have different tools where they have a virtual appliance. Maybe you have um, a gateway, an appliance that you're configuring from your firewall to go ahead and connect to the cloud. Or you have home users where you need a VPN client. All that can be automated and listed in that run book where you have that connectivity based on the different scenarios. But that's where planning comes into place. It's like, hey, we can fail over these systems, but who's working where? Are they at a different office? Are they working from home? Are they connecting to the office first and then getting out to the cloud? All that can be configured from the Acronis solution. And then, from a failover perspective, everything's predefined. Once you turn on DR, you do have to do that backup once. It's not, this is a good point. Since you're doing backup, you do need to run DR first to have that capability. You can't kind of turn it on after the fact that way. But all your storage and compute are going to be there. And then once it's failed over, typical incident, just say a server is out, you're running in the cloud. You can even connect to it from other systems that are in your location, running that one system, or it's all the systems depending on the incident. And then while it's running, you can run it for days, weeks until you're back and operational. And then there's a failback process. So once you have the systems in place that you're recovering to, you can do an initial recovery, continue to run in the cloud, and then do like a last periodic, like I'll call it a delta restore, where it's just bringing back the changes so you're not losing information when you're failing back as well. So there's a failover process and a failback to return your environment the way that it was. Ransomware.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it, right? I've been doing this stuff for 20 years, and it was like, it's a game changer, and it's impacting a lot of small businesses. For me, having conversations, I'm a big golfer. Some see things like golfing last summer with, and he owned a construction company hit by ransomware. They wanted 6 figures for him. He recovered from his backup, had a sound thing, but it's increasingly going on today. So, and then you think of, hey, before it was only hitting the big players, like, the airlines, healthcare, large financial institutions. Last year, we heard about, was it Change Healthcare, part of United Healthcare Group? I mean, that was hundreds of millions of dollars in a ransomware incident. But now, because of the complexity and these cyber criminals are getting smarter, but they're trying to pick out who's more vulnerable. They look at the small business and it's like, hey, do they have that readiness? Do they have the security posture? Do they have, multiple recovery points? So they're finding them to be bigger targets. And, the numbers don't lie. I'm not a big stat person, but they are glaring where, almost 50% of small businesses have had a cyber threat. And now they're not targeting the largest organizations. They're attacking, small shops where they know that they can get quick and easy money, because at the end of the day, and I hate saying this, but a small business can go out of business from a ransomware attack. If you don't have that cyber insurance, if it's taking you weeks or months, then also if you do pay it, like the numbers are crazy where they're going to hit you again. You're never really safe. From an email perspective, that's their driver. That's the best device that they're getting this into your system. But, 1 in 300 emails are compromised where, if they're not educated, and, security is your, your front end that is watching security awareness training, making sure that you're not clicking on things that you shouldn't to penetrate your environment. But it does happen where you do need to go ahead and have something to go ahead and recover from. I know we're coming short on time, but from a backup perspective, it's I think it's over like 95% of ransomware attacks are going after your backup data. It's so they know like, hey, you get hit by ransomware, you need to recover, but now all of a sudden you're getting locked out of your backup information. So they're becoming smarter and more sophisticated, and they're trying to get all different culprits within there. Next slide. Kind of talk about this where kind of numbers that you see from a single attorney, a dental practice, service company. These are real examples of clients that Acronis has helped through PAX8 use DR in their system. I don't like to talk about the negative, but it does happen where, single attorney being asked, 6 figures to go ahead and get their information back offline for 3 weeks. Dentist practice, not working and the productivity for a week. I do like to share some of the positive stories though. Brand new client last year to Acronis partner had running on it for a month, Dave, and their client, they were not attorneys, what were they in? Tax. And their systems were compromised without even doing DR testing. And it didn't go flawlessly because they didn't have the run book and everything like that. But they did set them up for DR, Dave, and they were able to fail over and give them access to the system, being on the solution for a month within hours. So there were some network changes that needed to be. They called, obviously emergency PAX8 and technical resources to help them that failed over. But, that's a real life example where somebody was hit by ransomware and they were completely locked out of their local target. So they got the password. Luckily, they weren't encrypting the encrypted data by Acronis on their local copy, but they couldn't access it, right? So now they failed over in the cloud, restored everything back, and they were operational in hours.
Hey, Sean, just a quick question that came in. It might be more to do with Dave's, but that last slide showed, all the loss when it comes to salaries and, productivity and things like that. Someone asked if implementing DRaaS will lower cyber insurance costs that might impact that. Does that happen?
From my side, I'll let Dave maybe. Some of the things that I see from cyber insurance, having an offsite backup and DR perspective is going to lower your policy. And they're asking those questions from a cyber insurance side to get that.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, those questions weren't asked a few years ago, but we're seeing the checklist coming, Travelers, Hanover, Chubb, Lords of London, as these checklists come in, the more you are able to check off for them, that's definitely making you more insurable and your rates to be going down low. Sometimes your industry it's difficult for them to go lower because you're at a higher risk. So every business is different. Going after a car mechanic shop is totally different than going after someone in a financial wealth. So Sean, back on that testing, that's the most important part for us. So
yeah,
it's everything.
It's everything. I mean, the solution's going to work for you, but like we just from our side, like we do periodic testing with different partners, and it's always something changes every quarter, right? So if you don't test, it's versus wasting time when the incident actually happens. Testing is so important, especially from it's 90% of the time networking side.
Yep. So again, whereas as Sean said earlier, we at PCG, so once you're in the DRaaS environment, not only we test your normal backups on premise, but you do have to test once a quarter, and then I think you do the full-fledged, at least on a yearly basis. So.
Yeah, and and the tools that Acronis provides, run books are awesome. So you're going to go through your, first define the different systems, but it's drag and drop. It's very basic questions. What needs to be shut off first? What is the sequence of the systems? Testing from there. Make sure they're operational. From the networking side to, clicking on a single button. And depending on different scenarios, you can even have one run book call another run book based on the scenario of how, you want to restore certain servers, maybe, certain subset of servers are impacted versus the entire environment. Or, from a networking side, hey, maybe something changes. Maybe they're not connecting from the office. Maybe you have everyone working from home. So you can pre-populate all those different scenarios. And at the end of the day, once that's all configured, it's a single click of the button that orchestrates that recovery workflow and ER workflow for all your different systems.
Wendy, were there any more questions that came from the audience? I know we're just slightly past the time, but everyone time's important. Was there any other questions came in from the audience?
I mean, I guess there were the main one and the most basic one is how do you know? I think, Sean, I think from a technical perspective, it's like, how do you really truly know that your data is safe and secure? Like, is it in the testing? Is it like, how do you know it?
No, that's a great question. Like, how do you know your data safe? So, I mean, once it's backed up and once it's in the DR component, there are actually tools within the Acronis software to understand, like, hey, you can run integrity checks, making sure things aren't compromised, corrupted, anything of that sort. You even have tools in there to test your RPOs of making sure you have all your different recovery points. But how do you really know is, first getting your systems backed up, having it encrypted, having it in an isolated environment, and then having the monitoring tools to say, hey, let's go ahead. And even PCG can go ahead and say, hey, we can do this test failover. That's the best proof of it. But also they have tools of validation to understanding the data so they can go ahead and simulate the restore where it's not corrupted or compromised as well. Good question there.
Great. And Dave, I am going to have to run myself soon, but I did want to just let everyone on the webinar know that we'll be publishing the recording. We'll send you the copy deck. We'll send you a link to either your client success manager or a calendar invite to meet with one of our IT specialists to do a business continuity assessment. And we'll also ask you on that same email, if you want to give us a Google review, you can do that. We'll send you a gift card to Amazon just for doing it. You'll be entered to win an even bigger gift card. But that's all from, that'll be coming from me. And that's all I have. Dave, back to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I really appreciate Sean joining us. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Technology, as we know, is constantly changing. We've done some on security. We have an upcoming one on security. We definitely feel AI is top of mind with everyone. And as we're talking about earlier, these ransom players, they're using AI to try to beat us. We actually want to use AI in our end on our tools against them, but also looking AI how to help our business. So we'll do one in AI. We've had a lot of requests for surveillance. Has really picked up the pace, surveillance and cameras from an HR standpoint and what's going on the business. So there's a couple of the topics we're going to be doing. But again, at here at PCG, we all the content valuable. And if you have any questions, as Wendy said, please reach out, and happy to go get you the necessary information of what it would be like DRaaS in your environment. It is a game changer. It is peace of mind. It is a little extra cost, but it's that insurance knowing that should something happen, I know and my business that I have the ability to operate my business. And again, go back to the planning of what it's going to cost per day, per hour, how many people, lost revenue. It's really nice to know that you can be operational. And again, I always go back to the example. Many of us do have generators. I'm old school. It's not automatic. I have to go out into the shed. Hopefully the gas is working. I pull the cord. Hopefully it's working. And then I can't put all my stuff on it. So that's kind of like the old kind of backup. What Sean was explaining is truly having this up and operational in 15 to 30 minutes to knowing that your users now can operate. And I think many of us on this call know there's a lot of stress if you're on the IT side, if our users can't work, lost revenue, can't bill, your clients can't do your order. So DRaaS is a great feature to add. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and have a great rest of your day. Have a great day. Thank you, Sean.
Bye now. Thank you.